Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, so excited about tonight's interview. Looking forward to having a great conversation. Let me make sure I'm letting everybody know we're on. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. And I'm going to bring Laura on. Give it just a couple minutes. I sent her the request. Welcome. Thank you for sharing. Everybody coming on already starting to share. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Laura should be accepting here in just a minute. Just getting her added. Thank you, Annette. Welcome. So we're going to have an incredible conversation tonight about narcissistic abuse, about Laura's story of survival of narcissistic abuse and what exactly is narcissistic abuse. Looking forward to a really great conversation because I feel like there really needs to be some around what is narcissistic abuse. I don't think that everybody really knows or understands exactly what that is. And so we're going to have a really, really great candid conversation tonight and also sharing the Divine Circle author challenge that is getting ready to launch again September 4th. So we are promoting the author challenge. I'm here. Okay, let's see what it's doing, Laura. Hold on one second. Okay, you should see an invite come up, Laura, to join the video, so it should put you on. Give us just a few minutes. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Hi, hon. I haven't been on my public page live forever. Forever. I'm too busy in my groups to come live on my public page, but we're here tonight, and I'm so excited about this conversation. Hold on one second. Let me make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know if she's seeing the notification on her side. Okay, hold on, Laura. I see your little. One second. It says it's adding you, Laura.
Hi. There it is. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Tripod.
Welcome. I'm going to turn up my volume real quick. Hold on one second. Okay. Hi, Laura. Welcome, honey.
Look at me. I had it all set up and then it wouldn't log me in. So pardon me for just a second. Let me get
That's
set.
okay. Take your time. We're going to get started in just a minute, folks. Hey, Selena. Right? All the DDs are on here, Laura, saying hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
There we go. I may just prop it up. Let's see. Is that okay?
You look fine.
Okay, good.
All right. Welcome, Laura. We are live tonight. Thank you so much for being my guest and coming live to share your story.
Yes.
So excited. Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief introduction. Okay, I'm not going to read everything on your bio because you have so many accomplishments, but I'm going to share a little bit and then I'm going to share some more throughout our conversation. Okay, and ask you some questions so you're able to give us that information as well.
Sure.
Laura is a 2-time survivor of narcissistic abuse. After 4 decades of pain and self-doubt caused by loving narcissists in her life, she understands why abuse victims feel unworthy, unlovable, and intrinsically broken. Charanza grew up with a narcissistic parent, then married a narcissist, and stayed with him for many years. After she left her marriage, she started her path to healing and becoming the woman God designed her to be, working with psychologists, physicians, spiritual healers, and life coaches. She's a former television news journalist who covered breaking news for CBS and ABC affiliates across the United States. She also did occasional live reports for CNN, and some of her work was broadcast on BBC. And then we'll go into your current career now in how it all kind of coincides with healing and everything else as well.
Yeah.
Laura, so your new book, do you have a copy of your book there that you could?
Oh, ta-da!
Ugly Love. All
Ugly Love.
right. So when did your book come out? I know it's brand new, but when did your book come out?
The print copies actually come out Saturday, this Saturday, the
Mhm.
1st, September
Okay.
1st. But the, the Kindle distribution or the ebook came out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago,
Awesome.
Wednesday, 10 days ago.
Awesome. And how do you feel being a brand new author and accomplishing this goal?
It is scary, right? You and I've talked about this. Everybody, Rebecca was instrumental in helping me heal and get to this point where I can write a book and live an abundant life, and still working on that, of course. But yeah, it's exciting. It's scary, but it's
Yeah.
exciting, and it feels like a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it is a huge accomplishment. And you know how proud of you I am for this accomplishment. So if
Yes.
we go back, Laura, and you go back as far as you can, because first of all, I'd like you to give a description or a definition for a narcissist, if you can, and what narcissistic abuse kind of looks like for those who are watching who aren't familiar with narcissistic abuse, because I've actually learned a lot from you about this topic. I was confronting it and, seeing it with clients, but not necessarily defining it as
Right.
narcissistic abuse. So in your own words, how would you define narcissistic abuse?
Well, I think there are many women and men who've been through it, but they don't understand that's what they've been through. We'll start first with what a narcissist is, and it is a person that has a true personality disorder. In my book, and if you look, you can Google, signs of narcissism, and the Bible for psychology is called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and it's what psychiatrists and psychologists use to diagnose narcissism. And there are 8 signs, and if someone has 5 of those 8 signs, then they have the personality disorder. So there's an argument whether it's curable. Dr. Les Carter, who I worked with on this book, says it's not. In my experience with those narcissists in my life, it's certainly not curable. But it's a form of mental and emotional abuse that eventually tears you down to nothing, Rebecca.
Yeah. And from your experience, is it easy to identify a narcissist?
Oh, no, no, no. Once I have an article published, it's called 7 Signs You're Dating a Narcissist, and Dr. Carter and I have a YouTube video that will go up soon. No, because they're always, I'd say 99% of the time, they're very, very charming, and they move so quickly, they suck you in, and you
Is this
fall
what you
quick.
it's called love bombing? How you
Love
feel,
bomb.
yes,
Yes,
you just feel
that's the
like they sweep you off your feet.
right. They roll out the red carpet. As a woman, I saw flowers in the nicest restaurants and trips, and they do move quickly. So physical intimacy fast. They try to act, show their emotions and emote feelings. But if you listen carefully, the story changes over time. But it's hard to see that because we all want that fairy tale. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we all do, but that's not real life. We can find true love, but it may not be that fairy tale.
Exactly. And so if you look at your life, and I know you mentioned in your bio that you're a 2-time survivor of narcissistic abuse. What are your earliest encounters or experiences with a narcissist?
I was raised by a narcissistic parent. And what that means is that you feel like love is conditional for that parent. So you work very hard to earn that parent's love. And for me, it was how I looked, what my weight was, what kind of grades I made, if I agreed with this parent. You really feel like if it's true love from a parent, you're having to work for it. And that shouldn't be the case.
So obviously, if that's what you experienced in childhood, it makes sense that you would go on to marry a narcissist, right? Because
Right.
that's your version of love, or what you've been preconditioned to believe or
Right.
accept love is, right?
I call it my
And
default. It's my default. And still I have to check myself. I'm, dating now, and I have to check myself and make sure, I always go for that good looking, charming guy, but I have to look a lot deeper now.
exactly. Exactly. Because I was just thinking about this today, Laura, that now, because of your work and because of us working together over this past year, right, I'm so much more sensitive to narcissism and narcissistic abuse, and being,
Hmm.
so any articles I come across, any research I come across, I always stop and read anything that's mentioning narcissism, right? And one of the things that it's really been pointed out through a lot of the things that I've looked at is that narcissists are really more of your sociopathic type of behaviors, correct? Like on the extreme end, your
Right.
criminals, your murderers,
Right.
people who end up doing very, very bad things without a lot of remorse, without feelings of personal responsibility. This would lend itself towards narcissism, is a lot of what I've
Exactly right.
read.
Right. There's a graphic in my book that shows picture a bicycle wheel or a tractor tire, whatever you want to picture. The hub of the wheel is narcissism, but all the spokes coming out are like sociopathy, psychopathy, obsessive compulsive disorder, histrionic disorder. So you get into, prisoners, people that, like
Yeah,
you mentioned, murdered. And there's with any narcissist, there is no empathy. It's all about control, and there's no empathy, or your feelings don't matter. And they
exactly.
care who they hurt to get what they need.
So let's dive into your story, okay? Into Ugly Love. I love the name of your book. It's absolutely fitting and phenomenal. Um, and we have a comment over here. Monique Nicole says, there's narcissistic friends too, that you can
Exactly.
be friends with people who are narcissistic.
Yes, you
Laura,
can.
what would that look like? Like if I was friends with a narcissist, what would that relationship look like, even in friendship?
There would be, in what I think is there would be little empathy. They only reach out to you. I'm thinking of a person that I know, and I feel like she's a narcissist. And when she calls, it's only when she wants something. And if it doesn't go
Mhm.
her way, she can turn the tables and, in a sense, punish me. Maybe I don't want to go to a concert with her. So, in turn,
Right.
she respond to my text messages for days at a time when I'm expected to text her back immediately.
Gotcha.
It's a one-way street. That's probably the best way to look at it, Rebecca. It's a
And there's
one-way
always
street.
punishment when you're not doing what they want you to do.
Right, exactly.
We have another comment. Trent says,
Okay.
yep, I had a narcissistic business partner, charmed me and screwed me over. Scary group of people.
Yes. In business, I have not had personal experience with that, but I know people that have, and it's cutthroat, it's ruthless. The rules keep changing in any narcissistic relationship or relationship with a narcissist. The rules always change, and they do that to keep you off balance. Um, maybe you did a great project, but the next time you repeat that project, then boss says, I don't know, you could have done it this way. There's no praise. And so they want to keep you off balance. So you'll work harder for them for the same amount of money or accolades, which is none.
Mhm. Right. One of the things that you share with me that I would love to point out while we have so many people watching is you mentioned to me how in the beginning that it's so incredible, especially romantic involvement, that it's so amazingly awesome that I mean literally like you've never been loved before in your life, like the love bombing, right, that we
Right,
mentioned.
right,
And then how it changes, and then you're constantly trying to get back to that person that they were in the beginning. And
mm-hmm.
that was really interesting to me, because I'm wondering how many people are even watching right now that find themselves in a relationship, right, Laura, that in the beginning it was great, and they're holding on to this hope
Right.
that it's somehow going to turn around, or they're somehow going to wake up one day and all of a sudden you love me again. or you're back to, you're going to be my knight in shining armor again, Mr. Charming, or you're going to turn into that wonderful woman that I met, originally. And what would you say to them?
I have been through it. I experienced it for 13 years. I tried to get that person that I met back. And I think about those 13 years, and I know God has a plan for everything. There's,
Yeah.
purpose in the pain. But for 13 years, I tried everything to win his love back. But the thing to remember is the love wasn't ever real in the first place. It's act, it's love bombing. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. It's Jekyll. You're seeing Jekyll. But over the course of time, you're actually seeing the real person.
Right.
And many psychologists call it splitting. So don't just think about the good times, because the person you're seeing through the next 12 and a half years, that's the real person.
Wow. And you had 13 years in that situation to finally get out and then be able to tell your story, to have enough courage to tell your story and overcome it, or not just survive it, right? Not just survive it, but to be able to come out and win, to be able to be restored and healed and do that work. And we'll get into the work later, but there's another comment over here. It says, the scary part is they show you the rest of the world. They show the rest of the world the charming side, but the person they are involved with gets to see the monster.
Exactly right. And you and I have spoken about that. They put on a very, very good face in public. They don't show anyone their true self. When they get behind closed doors, because you're their narcissistic supply, that's another term in psychology, you're feeding them everything that they need. Of course, they're going to come down on you and manipulate you and get you to be the shell of the person you once were. It's another control tactic, so you don't leave.
And I'd also imagine how heartbreaking and shattering it is, because when you I'm just putting myself in your shoes for a minute, okay, Laura, and thinking of like, you meet the man of your dreams and it's amazing, and you're thinking, oh my God, finally, the one, this man that, is going to love me and be there for me and shows you so much love. And then for that to turn like that, I can see how you stay in there so long, because especially, if we're honest, that type of experience is kind of rare, to be really swept off your feet and find that type of love that, everyone's looking for that, right? And so when it comes, I would imagine it's really difficult to not be swept up into that, So you mentioned you're going to do a video on some of the signs you may be dating a narcissist. Can you share just a couple little tips with us on what some of those may be?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The first two we've discussed. It's one, they're very, very charming. You will feel like a princess. We have mostly women on here, or a prince if you're being swept off your feet by, a female. The second one is they move very, very quickly. And those are two of the stages, in the love bombing, which is the first part of the relationship. But then in the next stage is called the devaluation stage. And that's when they start subtly putting you down. There may be some passive aggressiveness. They take no responsibility. If you're late, but you were the first one ready and they're still primping, that happens so often to me, but I would get blamed for being late to an event or a party. It's just a giant mind game, and you don't know what's the truth.
So I hear that you've got to be paying attention to that intuition. Don't, in the beginning, do not ignore that small voice that begins to send up alarms, right? Like begins to sound the alarms like, wait, why did he say that? Why did he just slightly put me down like that? Why did he try to belittle me in front of others? Or, just real, but it sounds like it's such a subtle thing in the beginning.
It's gradual and it's subtle. Rebecca, gradual and subtle. And then as the relationship goes on, you might find yourself a victim of gaslighting. And that's a term that's used a lot in psychology these days. And that's a form of mental and emotional manipulation that has you questioning reality. And
Mhm.
I have talked to so many women, and it's like there's a book on this that says if you want to gaslight someone, say, I didn't say that, or you must have misheard me. I heard that a lot. I would question
Right.
a narcissist and say, you really hurt me when you said, et cetera, et cetera. Or do you remember when you blamed that on me? And he would say, you misheard me. You're
Right.
making things up again. And you start thinking, well, maybe my reality is skewed. And then
Right.
he would then go on to say, you're lucky I love you because everyone else thinks you're crazy and I see it. But if you ever leave me, you won't find anyone else because I can tolerate your craziness.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Christine
You
says
feel, you do.
you feel crazy. Right.
You're going nuts.
Christine says they are always blaming you for everything, even when it's their fault or shortcoming. It's
Yes.
always your fault.
Yes.
So one of the things that, as you began to share with me on your experiences in the year that we've worked together, I began to think about all the clients I've had over the years, Laura,
Right.
that was not physical abuse, right? Was
Right.
not was not violent or physical or sexual abuse. However, it was such deep emotional abuse, right?
Right.
That the
Right.
mental abuse was practically worse than even being physically abused, because by the time you come out of this, that feeling of questioning yourself, that feeling of over the years of being belittled and being put through to where you end up not speaking your mind. You
Exactly.
learn to keep your mouth shut, to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to not be your authentic self because you're
Right.
constantly trying to shift to make them happy, right?
Mm-hmm. The rules keep
And
changing. Yes.
yeah, yeah, you like the standards keep changing. So you
Yes.
can never meet the mark. You can never fulfill them or make them happy. And one of the things, as I thought about clients that I've worked with over the years, is the self-esteem being so low,
Oh,
Laura. By the time they got done and really finally, quit or broke up or divorced or whatever, it's like the damage was so deep emotionally.
yes. It tears you apart. And there's a psychologist that also has written a great book, and it's called his name is Dr. Lundy Bancroft, and that book helped me really understand the differences between narcissism and someone who's a sociopath and a psychopath. A big eye opener. And he claims this, he thinks that verbal and emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse because those bruises fade. The bruises and the cuts they'll turn into scars, but emotional scars can be so deep and leave you the shell of the person you once were. Some
Mhm.
women commit suicide, others don't care for their kids correctly because you're so beaten down.
Yep, exactly. Deborah says, exactly, that's where I am, completely damaged,
Oh, oh.
completely damaged. And Deborah, we know we're going to work together, so we're going to get some help for Deborah as well. Um, so tell me this, Laura. I mean, obviously, writing a book like this is very difficult, but because first of all, you're having to revisit all of
Right.
the pain that you experienced, through your parent, through your ex-husband. So it's kind of like opening old wounds or revisiting. But I would like you to share kind of how cathartic that is in being able to revisit that and write your story.
Well, Rebecca, you encouraged me to begin writing it last summer when we started working together. And I sat down in August and wrote probably maybe a couple of thousand words, so maybe a chapter, maybe. And then it was too painful. I couldn't do it. So I put it back down, worked with you more, healed more. And then finally in December, sat down and wrote and wrote and wrote and finished in March.
Right.
Um, there were days that you're writing and you had forgotten that maybe an incident happened and it just comes to you. And so you just put it on paper. You just let the stream of consciousness flow. And
Hmm.
that part was painful, but healing. There's something about the words and the feelings and those emotions all being put on paper
Hmm.
to get through it.
Right. Exactly. And for anyone who's watching and listening, so often I hear from people, Laura, like, well, there's so many people to tell this story or have stories like mine, or, why should I write my story? Because, there's so many people writing books now. And my response to that is always your story matters, right? And the world needs your story. That
Right.
your healing and your story, your healing is really, really wrapped up in your story,
Right.
because your story is really your testimony, right? And
Right.
so do you feel that once you accomplished this, that you had a sense of even next level healing or closure when you completed this project?
Yes. And I grew closer to the Lord than I ever have. This was probably one of the final steps in my healing.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll hear a voice in my head that tells me I'm not good enough, or this would be different if you were different, or you were better, or prettier, or
Yeah.
smarter. And I have learned to talk back to that voice.
Right.
But yes, it was very, very cathartic, very healing, and a huge turning point. And
Yeah.
as you know, I have a 12-year-old son, middle schooler, which is the most awkward age ever. But he's actually really proud of his mom. And so that's been fun to experience some of this with him. And I've had to explain to him what the book's about, and he gets it. And he'll say, "Yeah, Mom, I get it. Okay, now I'm going to go play basketball."
Right.
But yeah,
And what would you have to say to the people who feel like they're sitting on their story or they're sitting on their truth because of the fear of the world knowing or their family knowing? Because that's that one thing I think that a lot of people hold back, really even being honest with themselves. That this is why they don't even know that this is what they've even been in. They don't even know they've been abused. They don't even open themselves up to look at it from that perspective, because that would mean that they've really been dealing with some people who are really not great people, right?
right,
And a
right.
lot of the time this has been people in your family, or it's been someone you love. And what would you have to say to the people who feel like, I just don't know if I could really, be that open?
You can tell your story, because if it helps one person, you've done, I believe, what God has asked you to do.
Yeah.
And you're breaking that cycle. I have a great brother. He's become a dear friend in the last 5 years. He said, "Laura, we've got to break the cycle in our family," and I'm breaking it in my family, and I've broken it in my little family of my son and myself and two dogs.
Right.
It's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
There's love and laughter. So if you can help one person do the same thing, I mean, that's incredible.
Right. Yes, Rashonda, we'll keep the replay up. Somebody just asked if we'll keep the replay up. We will. So, Laura, in your journey towards healing, with the
Okay,
book being kind of the culmination, how many
right.
years of counseling were you in? How much help were you getting through all the years, of dealing with all of this?
Girl, I could buy a yacht or something with the amount of money I have spent on counseling. And that's why you've been so pivotal in helping me, because it's been a year, but I've made more strides in the last year. As Rebecca and I've discussed, it takes both. I think you need the cognitive therapy with a psychologist, but then a spiritual healer. It's been incredible.
Right.
But yes, I've been in counseling since college. So like 20
Wow.
something years. Yeah.
Right. And to think that there's so many people out here who would say, who they that think that something's wrong with them. I remember when we first began talking, we first began your work, Laura, there was this intrinsic feeling that something may just be wrong with you, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and that's what the abuse does. For anyone that's listening or watching this video, you've got to stop pointing the finger at yourself and realize that you may have been victim to some people in some situations that have caused you to blame yourself for things that
Hmm.
were really not in your control.
Exactly. Hmm.
And being able to get to that place where you're understanding that, so you can begin to heal and understand that you're worthy of love. You're worthy, of the greatest love of your life. You're worthy of success. You're worthy of great friends and relationships. You're worthy of abundant life, period.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
what's next for you? What do you feel like what are you hoping this book accomplishes?
I just want to help as many people as I can. I go to a great church called Fellowship Church in Grapevine. It's Pastor Ed Young Jr. And I heard through the grapevine today that he and his wife are going to reach out to me and talk to me about the book. And, I don't know where that will lead. I've had a television network call and want to do a story or two on narcissistic abuse and what it is, and some of the DDs that I've gotten to know. Get ready for a phone call in the next year, maybe to be interviewed about what you've gone through and your journey to an abundant life. So that if you ask me today if I'm going to write another book, no, not right now, because it's such hard
Right.
work. You're done when you get the manuscript done, but then
Mhm.
comes the marketing and the editing, and
Yes.
so it's so rewarding, but I need a little more time without.
Yes. Exactly. So when I think about the process, okay, so Laura joined the Author Challenge last year. For those of you who are not aware, the Author Challenge is something I did for the first time last year inside of my inner circle, the Divine Circle. And Laura was one of the people who stepped up and said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna write a book. And then, like she said, like she started writing in August, it was too hard. She was like, nope, I'm not doing this. And
I did.
and she told me, she's like, no, Rebecca, I don't think this is really meant to be right now. I'm not really thinking I'm going to write a book right now. And so she took a little time off, and then she went back to writing in December. And listen, I've got to tell this, Laura.
Oh
When
no.
I tell you, Laura is so strong and she's so focused and she's so powerful. Like when Laura puts her mind to something, it's like she just powers her way through it. Like this woman literally wrote this book in like 3 months. I mean, I swear to God, it was like I look up, I'm not hearing from Laura hardly at all. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the book's done. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like she literally just hunkered down for
I
like
did.
3 months in isolation. Like no socializing, no anything. I
I had
barely
no
heard from
life.
her.
I had no life. None.
No
Mm-mm.
life.
No
No
life.
life. She literally just set her mind to it and just cranked it out. And it's like, so, one of the things I talk about is that we owe it to ourselves, right?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
do the things that God is calling us to do.
Hmm.
And sometimes it comes at great sacrifice. However, it's so worth it. Laura, when your book came out, first week it came out on Amazon, what happened?
And it's a God thing. It's not a Laura thing. It was a number one new, no, it's a Rebecca thing. It was a number one, listen to that Texas accent thing. It was a number one new release on Amazon in self-help abuse for 2 days. So
Yeah. Number
yeah,
one, the first week it went on, first couple days, it went
yeah,
on Amazon. It was the top new release in self-help and abuse. And I kept telling Laura through her process of, kind of the ups and downs. I'm like, Laura, God has got this, literally on the other side of you birthing this blessing and birthing this book, God is going to bless it. And it's just been like, the moment it's come out, it's just been kind of one thing after the next that God just
right,
starts lining it up, lining it
yeah.
up. I'm
Hmm.
so, so proud of you. So when it comes to relationships, we got
Okay.
a lot of single ladies on here, Laura, okay?
I know. I'm right there with you.
How do you feel now, having done the work to get healed, having told your story? Do you feel like you're in a better place to begin to date and attract a different type of man?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And I'm stronger about if I have a cup of coffee or something with someone, and if I can tell right away they're not the man for me, or I see red
Mhm.
flags, to be kind and be done.
Right,
Right.
right.
And not give them a second, third, fifth chance, you know?
Which is what you would have done before. You
Oh,
would
I
have
would have
been,
before and would have said, well, maybe it's me that he was rude, or maybe, you know, I had years ago, I had someone who asked me to pay the tab and he had asked me out and said, "Can you use your credit card?" And I thought, you asked me out, and now so yeah, you learn, okay, red flag.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And when you look at your story and you think about the women right now who are on this video who need
right.
to go get your book, right? And it's not the people commenting all the time. What I've learned with anything that I do, Laura, there's people watching who won't say a word on
Hmm.
here, right? But they're suffering silently.
I
You
get
know,
it.
what is some of the best advice you could give to them as far as if they're still in the relationship right now or they just got out of the relationship? What's some of your best advice for recovery?
Okay, so the first thing to do is what I did, and it still helps me to this day when I question myself. Document everything, even if you go back as many years as you can and put March 2010 and you remember an abusive incident or what you think may be abusive, document it and keep a running list, because when you he or she gaslights you, you can go back to that list and go, no, that exactly. No, that's not,
Mm,
he's not telling me the truth.
mm,
Um, and when you're in it on a daily basis, your reality is your reality. Don't let someone tell you how you should feel or how you should
mhm,
act or what you should believe. And I've
mhm.
told you this before, Rebecca, if you see it, if you've seen it or you've heard it, it happened. So many
Right.
times I'm told, no, that didn't happen. You're making up things. You must
Right.
have misheard me. No, if you've seen it or heard it, it happened. So I would
Exactly.
write down however you need to do it, journal. And then
Documenting.
I finally made the decision to leave this person. And I had so much documentation to give my attorney, and it gave me more confidence through the process and made me
Mhm,
feel stronger and to stay my
mhm.
course.
Right. So we
So
had one lady, Stephanie commented, people who are in the process of healing should not be looking to date. They are not equipped or ready. How do you feel about that, Laura?
we've talked about that, and I certainly was not ready the first few months of going through your healing course.
Mm,
Um, you're in a very vulnerable, raw place. I can remember the feeling of just like I felt like my chest was just wide open, and
mm,
you don't need, you will make a bad decision, or you have a really high probability of making a bad decision if
mhm,
you are not
mhm.
secure in what you deserve and what
Yeah.
you truly are, because you're amazing. You're amazing. Don't let that
Mm,
narcissist tell you you're not. You're amazing.
mm. I have found that I have to advise clients who are going through my healing course, to not date at all. First of all, dating is off
Right.
limits,
Right.
and to be very, very careful who you meet through that process. If even in the middle of it, even at the tail
Right.
end of the course, you still have to be very careful about who you're attracting and who you're dating
Right.
because you're still in the process of healing. It's not really done. You could still be making really, really poor choices, and you can end up with a loser, and then you're I know, right? You're crazy when I say that word,
I love
loser.
that.
You can end up with someone just that's no different than who you've been with before. Now you're getting hurt again, and it sets you back instead
Yeah.
of being able to really continue on that path to healing.
You called it pain goggles, Rebecca, and that's a great way to put it, because
Mm.
you don't see what you need to see when you're hurting as badly as I know I was.
Yeah. You see everything through a fog of pain,
You
and
do.
you really do. And through the fog of pain, what's what's healthy looks unattractive. I say this all the time too, right?
Hmm.
That when you're hurting and you're not healthy and you're not healed, you're going to continue to make choices based on pain. And a lot of the time, what those choices look like is something that's relatable. Well,
Hmm.
what's relatable or comfortable would be more of the same,
Right.
more hurt, more
Right.
pain, more abuse. So this is why a lot of the time you'll continue to choose abusers or choose people who are not well balanced and not healthy because you're still coming from that place And especially for those of you who are watching who have been through many, many years of abuse, or let's just say you're still in it now, or you got out of a long-term relationship or marriage that was abusive, you're going to have to be very careful. You're going to really need to take the time to heal and take the time to do your work, because the worst thing you can do is be out here dating and you're still hurting.
Right.
Definitely. Definitely. We had a couple more comments. Hold on one second.
Absolutely.
Kathy says, great show, ladies. Coming out of a relationship that dealt with lies and cheating, I'm in my healing process moment. My first step is to understand who I am and my worth. Dating and love is possible later, but start with you first. Most
I love
definitely.
it.
I love it too. That's so true. Okay, Laura, please let our audience know where they can find the book. Oh, wait, last plug for the author challenge. The author challenge starts September 4th. If you know you need to tell your story, if you know that you have a story to tell, that your testimony needs to be in writing, listen, there's no better way to get your testimony out than to write a book. There's literally no better way to do that and to set you up for whatever God would have next to come out of your story. So the author challenge starts September 4th, the day after Labor Day weekend. Make sure you join that. By joining the author challenge, you're going to be joining the Divine Circle for accountability. We do videos, we hold you accountable to check-ins, writing check-ins, and writing tips. We have live videos from experts that you'll be seeing in there as well to help you through the process with the resources and all of the help to make sure you're processing along to get your book done. So that was my little shameless plug for a second, Laura. Okay, Laura, where can they find your book? Where can they purchase it? What's the best way to get in contact with you? Because not only is Laura an author, she's also the founder of a Facebook group called Victorious Voices. Victorious Voices is for survivors and women in recovery from narcissistic abuse. If you feel like that's you, Laura, once we get done, if you could please put a link to Victorious Voices in the comments in the video. That way people can join that as well. But where can they find you if they're needing an advocate, if they're wanting to get the book or wanting to talk to you? How do they do that?
You can join Victorious Voices or private message me on Facebook, or my email address, and I'll add this too, is theuglylovebook@gmail.com. And Dr. Carter and I both answer emails, so we're happy to help. But and anybody who takes your author challenge, Rebecca, I'm happy to be a resource, because I had someone locally, a woman named Holly Kaplan, who's also an author, who helped me, in addition to Rebecca, navigate the process, because it's not difficult, it's just tedious.
It is tedious.
It's something, and there are lots of questions to be asked. So I'm happy to do. So you can find it on Amazon. So you can Google, get on Amazon and search for my name or Ugly Love. But the best thing to do is search for my name. And I'll also put a link up after we're done.
Awesome. And I put a link up above into her website, theuglylovebook.com. So you can go to her website as well. Please show her all the support, get her book, get it for a friend that you may know who is going through something similar. Laura, anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
No, you can do it. You can survive this. If you're going through what I went through, you can do it. You're strong enough, because the reason I say that, look at what you've already been through. You're going through so much. A lot of women and men can survive what you're surviving. So you are strong enough to leave. And I'm the happiest I've been in my entire life. And that's saying something.
Right.
And dude's doing great. He's a normal 12-year-old now. He felt the toxicity when I was in that relationship, but we're good now.
Exactly. And that is such a blessing, because isn't that the whole point? You should be enjoying life, living abundantly, feeling free. And that's possible for everyone. I believe that it really is possible for every single person, that it is God's will for you to live abundantly. And it's just a matter of doing your work and recognizing who you are and what you deserve. Laura, I love you.
And I'll talk to you later.
Blessings in abundance. We'll be back in a couple days with another interview. For our next interview is Adrienne Mullins, another lady out of the Divine Circle who's published a book as well. So we'll be sharing her story and information in the next couple of days. Can't wait to interview her. Laura, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. I'm so proud of you. The Divine Circle is so proud of you. We will continue to support you and love on you and do everything we can. And The Godly Girls Conference, Abundant Life Conference, is coming next year. Laura will be a speaker at the Godly
So,
Girls Conference, and will be sharing her book and her
wait,
story as well at the Godly Girls Conference.
yep. Sounds great, Rebecca. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, hun. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.